Support for WCBU's On Deck comes from Jaguar Land Rover Peoria on Allen Road. Special offers available on nearly every new Jaguar with personalized service throughout purchasing and ownership. Jaguar, a proud luxury and performance brand. More at jaguarlandroverpeoria.com.
Annoying underwater sounds could be just the key to stopping the encroachment of invasive carp in the new waters. That's just one of the things you'll want to hear about to start your day for Tuesday, May 21st. I'm Tim Shelley, and this is WCBU's On Deck.
Support for WCBU's On Deck comes from Pekin Insurance and Unland Companies. Whether it's work or play, On Deck is your local source for community happenings, brought to you by local partners. Pekin Insurance and Unland Companies, your total insurance solution. More at unland.com and pekininsurance.com.
East Peoria Mayor John Call says the opening of the mixed-use 501 Bluetown project next to City Hall is right on target. WCBU reporter Joe Deacon has an update.
The $65 million Bluetown development from Flaherty and Collins will feature more than 200 upscale residential units and 10,000 square feet of commercial space. Mayor Call says cooperative weather conditions have allowed construction to stay on schedule.
Some of the apartments will be done to the point where they can lease them out and move folks in the beginning of next year. I would say no later than March, April timeframe.
Call says the city will not have direct input regarding potential business tenants, but they have made their preferences very clear.
What we did do early on was give the developer kind of an idea of what we would like to see, and that is something that's unique, as many people have expressed their criticism, if you will, of a lot of chain restaurants and businesses and things of that sort.
Call says many people have voiced concerns about the unsightliness of the Bluetown parking deck that's currently visible during construction, but he says that structure won't be an eyesore once it's surrounded by the residential buildings. For WCBU's On Deck, I'm Joe Deacon.
Here are some of the other stories we're following in the WCBU newsroom. Planned Parenthood of Illinois is reopening its Peoria Health Center more than a year after the facility was firebombed. Illinois Republicans are pushing legislation enhancing penalties on education authority figures who sexually abuse their adult students. Allegiant Airlines is launching a new seasonal flight from Peoria to Destin, Florida. And Governor J.B. Pritzker says protests are expected at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, and the event will have enhanced security. Find more of these stories and all the details at WCBU.org.
You're listening to On Deck from WCBU Peoria Public Radio.
Researchers have spent the past 2 years on the Mississippi River between Hamilton, Illinois and Keokuk, Iowa, studying whether underwater acoustic systems will deter invasive carp. Halfway through the study, the results are promising. Eleanor Lindenmeyer spoke with the two lead scientists.
Mary Beth Bray and Krista Woodley are both research biologists. Bray works with the Geological Survey and Woodley with the Army Corps of Engineers. They designed a 16-speaker soundbar and installed it at Loch 19. Now, they're studying the effects. There are 4 types of invasive carp in the Mississippi. Bray says they were brought in intentionally in the late 60s and early 70s.
They filter feed, they eat a lot of phytoplankton, zooplankton, and so some states brought them in to play cleanup, basically.
But those plans led to unintended consequences. The carp ended up competing for food with native species like the bigmouth buffalo and gizzard shad. In addition, silver carp are known to jump out of the water, causing injuries and property damage. Woodley says the carp can also reduce the water quality, leading to increased dredging and bank destabilization.
When you're thinking about something like the Mississippi River, where we already have quite a bit of flood risk and flood element, the fish can actually increase those impacts, thereby taking one effect and amplifying it.
The goal is to deter invasive carp while minimizing impacts on native species. The soundbar plays sounds specifically at the frequencies the carp can hear. Woodley says the sounds should be irritating to the carp, so they don't come near.
In some cases, it should stop them from wanting to cross. Sometimes it will actually cause them to turn around.
The soundbar can be controlled both on-site and remotely. It is on for 3 days and 8 hours, then off for 3 days and 8 hours. The scientists can then compare how many fish cross the lock when the system is active and how many cross when it is inactive. Bray and Woodley's team puts transmitters in 700 to 800 fish a year to track their movements. The fish are caught, given a minor surgery to insert the tag, then released. This tagging is a group effort. The Fish and Wildlife Service, Missouri Department of Conservation, and the Iowa and Illinois Department of Natural Resources are all involved. Bray says the data from 2022 shows a 50% decrease in silver carp specifically.
So if for every 2 fish that pass upstream when it's off, 1 would pass when it's on.
Most native species in the Mississippi do not hear at the same frequencies as the carp. So far, the system seems not to bother them. Bigmouth buffalo are crossing the lock at similar rates when the system is off and on. Bray says they have not seen significant impacts on the freshwater drum, the paddlefish, or the white bass.
But all things considered on the fish side, it's looking definitely better than not having it there.
The data from 2023 will be analyzed soon. Though Bray and Woodley provide the results, they don't decide if the system should be implemented on a broader scale. That decision is left to the states. Besides studying the movement of fish, Bray and Woodley have also been tracking how well their equipment functions over longer periods of time. Woodley says the technology developed for this project can be used for other projects as well. It is already being used by others trying to attract fish towards certain areas or to cover up construction noise.
It's had a lot of applicability and some really neat science go into it that we're able to track and hopefully push out to people that need it for whatever purpose.
Bray says some groups are also working on combining removal methods with deterrent methods.
We're trying to say, if we're deterring fish, how can we remove them at the same time?
The underwater acoustic deterrent system study is set to continue through the end of the year. It may be extended with different research questions depending on needs of the partner agencies. I'm Eleanor Lindenmeyer.
Now, before we let you go, today is the Cocktails for Casa fundraiser at Clink Bar and Events. Learn how to make some craft cocktails and help support court-appointed special advocates of the 10th Judicial Circuit. And that's all for today. You can subscribe to WCBU's On Deck podcast on Apple, Spotify, or the NPR app.
Support for WCBU's On Deck comes from Pekin Insurance and Unland Companies. Whether it's work or play, On Deck is your local source for community happenings, brought to you by local partners Pekin Insurance and Unland Companies, your total insurance solution. More at unland.com and pekininsurance.com.